presentation. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Clean School Bus program, brought to you by our friends at EPA. I'm going to be your host this morning. My name is Sean Green. I'm the Air Quality Programs Manager at Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. And while we serve the 5 counties in southeastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and the 4 surrounding counties, the invitation for this meeting was spread to other folks across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And so there'll be a lot of information that's appropriate for all the attendees, although our panelists are kind of focused here in southeastern Pennsylvania. Just to go over some rules for our meeting today, please keep your audio muted. If you do want to be recognized at the question and answer section of our presentation at the end of the meeting, please use the raise hand function. But our real goal is we're going to try and address questions through the chat box. Please enter your question into the chat. If we don't get to it, please don't worry. We will be keeping a transcript of the chat questions and sharing them with our panelists, and those folks will get back to you to address your questions. Okay, so when you are going to speak, like you said, you raise your hand, we'll acknowledge you. You can turn your camera on, unmute yourself, and okay. Next slide, please. So again, Wally said today we're focusing, our panelists are from southeastern Pennsylvania. The program is appropriate to all of our invitees, so welcome. On our list, there are a number of attendees from power companies across Pennsylvania and also in New Jersey, representatives of EPA Region 3 and also EPA Region 2. As well as the Clean Cities program in New Jersey and other in Western Pennsylvania. So when we get into the discussion portion of this presentation, we may have answers for your particular situation because again, there are school districts and attendees from New Jersey and across Pennsylvania. So, and welcome. Today, the way it's going to work, I'm going to wrap up my introduction momentarily. We're going to have the bulk of the presentation by folks from EPA Region 3, Michelle Moyer, Allison Riley, and Kelsey Matola. We'll have a brief 10-minute portion of the program for polls and questions that are directly germane to the EPA presentation. And then we'll get into Tony Bandiera's presentation from the Eastern Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Transportation. That's our Eastern Pennsylvania Clean Cities program. And we will follow that up with a discussion from Tom Bonner and Joe Fragala and Nick Scarborough from PECO to talk about our power utilities program and how they can support your school bus electrification program. And then we will get into a final 15-minute section for questions and answers for everybody. We'll try and address those imminent questions. So again, don't worry about it if we don't get to your question during this period. Chat transcript will be shared with all the panelists and we will get to your questions. This recording is going to be posted on the EPAC website, contacts and Tony's presentation. And then you can certainly contact EVRPC if you have trouble getting in contact with any of these folks, and we'll make sure that people get to your questions. Okay, so with that, I am going to hand the program over to Michelle Moyer from EPA Region 3 to tell us about the Clean School Bus Funding Program.
Good morning, Sean. Thank you for inviting us to talk today. It's an exciting day for the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. If you haven't heard, the program guide and the application was released at 5 o'clock this morning for those people that are early birds. But before we get started in talking about the Clean School Bus Rebate Program, I'm just going to do a quick introduction of myself and the staff that are on the call today from EPA. As Sean said, my name is Michelle Moyer, and I work for the US EPA Region 3 office out of Philadelphia. I've worked for the EPA for about 15 years, and I've just recently started managing the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. I'm going to give the opportunity to Kelsey Matola, who is one of my colleagues. She could do an introduction, and Allison Riley as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Kelsey Matola. I'm a project officer working on the Clean School Bus team here at EPA Region 3.
Hi, and I'm Allison Riley. I've been with the program for about 6 years. Most of that time I've been managing the diesel program.
Thank you. And we also have staff from our Region 2 office. We have Emmett and Lily, if they want to do a quick introduction of themselves.
My name is Lily Black. I'm a newer EPA employee, but I am working mainly with the Clean School Bus Rebate Program, and I am with EPA Region 2, based out of New York City.
Hello, everyone. I apologize. I can't find the open video thing on my computer here. I was lucky I found the speaker thing, so I apologize. My name's Emmett Keaveney, and I work with Lily in Region 2. And just for people's information, that encompasses New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, and 8 Indian nations. And we both kind of work on these grants and rebates, historically with our Diesel Emission Reduction Act program, and we're looking forward to kind of working with folks with this new Clean School Bus program. And we kind of like to just thank Region 3, EPA, and the Delaware Valley Commission for allowing us to kind of participate and hopefully answer some questions. So thank you, Michelle.
And thank you, Emmett. That's a good reminder for folks that don't know. EPA Region 3 office, we encompass Pennsylvania, Maryland, DC, Delaware, Virginia, and West Virginia. So thank you, Emmett. That was a great reminder. If you can advance a couple slides. I think we went through, yeah, thank you. We went through the next 2, which just is our staff people. Next slide, one more, please. Thank you. So today, myself, Kelsey, and Allison are going to do a quick introduction of all of the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. I'm going to do a program highlights. We're going to talk about the timeline, a list of the eligible and priority applicants. Allison's going to talk about the school bus replacement guidelines and the funding. Kelsey will close it out and talk about the application process, the selectee requirements, and then I'll close it out with the conclusion. Next slide, please. The bipartisan infrastructure law, also you may hear us call it BIL or BIL. The Clean School Bus Rebate Program provides an unprecedented $5 billion to transform the nation's fleet of school buses. And I've heard a number that there's approximately 25 million school buses on the road today, which is staggering. So we hope that some of this money will be used to clean up some of the older buses. Next slide, please. So under the title, or the Clean School Buses and Ferries, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BIL, provides again $5 billion over 5 years, so from 22 to 26, for the replacement of existing school buses with clean school buses and zero emission school buses. So it's these new clean school bus replacements will produce either zero or low tailpipe emissions compared to their older diesel predecessors. The first funding opportunity was announced today. That's the rebate program. So it's a great day to have this webinar. Next slide. Half of the $5 billion will be dedicated specifically for zero emission school buses, and half of the $5 billion will be for clean school buses. They are, for the Clean School Bus Rebate Program, there's approximately $250 million currently being released for the zero emission school buses and $250 million for the clean school buses. If additional money is warranted, they can go up to $500 million for each of those programs. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary of the eligible bus definitions. So a zero emission school bus is any school bus that produces a zero exhaust emission of any air pollutant and any greenhouse gas, so an electric vehicle. A clean school bus is a school bus that reduces emissions and is operated entirely or in part using an alternative fuel or is a zero emission school bus. An alternate fuel is a liquefied natural gas, a compressed natural gas, hydrogen, propane, or biofuels. Next slide. So there are some program limitations. We don't really think the first one is going to be too much of an issue, but no state shall receive more than 10% of the fiscal year's available funding. And school districts applying directly for funds may only submit one application to replace up to 25 buses. So that's the max is 25 buses that anybody can apply for. But again, school districts can only submit one application. Other eligible applicants may submit multiple applications, but each application must be for buses that serve different school districts. EPA will not fund multiple applications for bus replacements that serve the same school district. Next slide. So here's a quick timeline. The rebate announcement went out today, so May 20th, and it'll close. It's open for 90 days, so it'll close on August 19th. EPA will review the applications and begin the selection process in September. We'll notify applicants of their selection status, whether or not they've been selected or they're on the wait list, by October of 2022. And then selectees will have to submit their rebate payment request form with purchase orders demonstrating that the new buses and eligible infrastructure has been ordered. And that'll be from October 22 to April of 2023. And then the project period deadline for selectees to receive their new buses and install the eligible infrastructure, replace their old buses, and submit the closeout form will be October 2024. So you really have almost 2 years to complete the project. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick summary of the eligible applicants, and I'll go into them in a bit more detail. Next slide. The first one is state and local government entities. State and local government entities that provide bus services, including public school districts. This includes DC, Puerto Rico, Guam, the American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and the US Virgin Islands. Public charter schools with a National Center for Education Statistics ID are eligible to apply directly for funding. They don't know if they have that, they can click on the link here in the presentation, which will be provided after the event, and they could see if they qualify. Most state government entities would not be eligible to apply, but some like South Carolina, who own their bus fleets, would be eligible. Next slide. The next eligible entity is the Nonprofit School Transportation Association. And these are trade associations and membership organizations that are in the student transportation industry. Next slide. The third eligible entities are Indian tribes, tribal organizations, or tribally controlled schools responsible for the purchase of school buses or providing school bus service for the Bureau of Indian Affairs funded schools. Next slide. And then the last eligible entity is the eligible contractors. These are for-profit, not-for-profit, or nonprofit entities that have the capacity to sell clean or zero-emission school buses or related charging or fueling infrastructure to school bus owners, or they arrange financing for such a sale. It also includes school bus dealers and original engine manufacturers that meet the criteria for eligible contractors. Next slide. So private school districts. Private school districts cannot apply directly for funding under the 2022 Clean School Bus Rebate Program. However, any of the eligible applicants can partner with a private fleet that owns and operates the bus to replace buses that serve a school district under an active contract. That's a mouthful. But here's just a quick example that I'll just read through. So a bus dealer such as the Big Yellow Bus Sales can apply to replace buses owned and operated by a private fleet named Safety First Bus Company. Safety First Bus Company has to have a contract with Washington School District, for example. On the application, the Big Yellow Bus Sale or the dealer will apply and they'll need to list both the private fleet, which is Safety First Bus Company that owns the buses, and also the school district, which is the Washington County School, who the buses serve. If the Big Yellow School Bus is selected for funding, they're going to have to pass the funding through to the Safety First Bus Company, which is the private fleet, via point of sale discount on the new school buses or some other financial arrangement. The caveat is with all of the buses that the buses must continue to serve the Washington County School District, or any school district for that matter, for a period of 5 years from the date of delivery. Next slide. Oh, you can skip through these two. They're just quick examples, which we just don't have enough time to cover today, but you can review at your later date. Okay. Prioritized applicants. This is in the program guide, and I encourage you all to attend or to review it. We'll definitely make sure that we post a link in the chat. But prioritized applicants. The bill or the bipartisan infrastructure law allows EPA to prioritize certain applicants. These applicants have to meet one or more of the prioritization criteria will be offered more funding per bus and receive preference in the selection process. So again, if you're on the priority school district list, you will get more funding per bus and you'll receive preference in the selection process. Applicants that qualify under one or more of the prioritizations will be identified in the EPA's prioritized funding list, and that is on our website right now. I just want to reiterate or explain that if you're to apply, because this is a huge amount of funding that we have, and we don't want to discourage anybody from applying. Next slide. So what are the prioritized criteria? There's 3 that are listed here. And again, you have to meet one, not all 3, to be on the priority school district list. So a high need school district or low income area, it's a school district listed in the small area income and poverty estimates, or SAPE, school district estimates for 2020. And they're having 20% or more of the students living in poverty. School districts not listed in the SAPE data, such as most charter schools, can self-certify that they have more than 20% of the students living in poverty. They just, EPA may ask for supporting documentation to verify that. In addition, to meet the high need school districts and low income priority area or criteria, school districts located in the US Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands are qualified. So the second criteria is rural school districts. If school districts identified with locality code 43, which is rural and remote, and 42, which is rural and distant, by the National Center for Education Statistics, they would meet criteria number 2. And then the last criteria is the tribal school districts. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs funding school districts and school districts that receive basic support payments for children who reside on Indian land. So again, you have to meet one, not all of these criteria. Next slide. Thanks. And now I'm going to pass it over to Allison Riley, and she's going to talk about the school bus replacement guidelines.
Hi, everybody. Can you see me? Okay, there I am. Okay, so generally speaking, the buses that are eligible for replacement must be 2010 or older diesel-powered buses. That's the purpose of the program. If the fleet does not have any eligible 2010 or older school buses and you're requesting zero emission school bus replacements, you can either scrap a 2010 or older non-diesel internal combustion engine, meaning a gasoline engine, or you can scrap, sell, or donate a 2011 or newer internal combustion engine. So that would be any diesel or other internal combustion engine that is newer. The main takeaway here, of course, is that yes, the program is focused on replacing older higher emission diesel vehicles, but if your fleet has no buses that are 2010 or older, you can still apply and participate. You also have the option of donating or selling those newer vehicles as long as you're moving towards zero emissions. Next slide. Okay, the buses eligible for replacement must have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more. They must be operational at the time of the application submission, meaning no vehicles that are already slated for disposal. They must be owned by the fleet receiving the replacement buses, so no leases. And we have in the past during the school bus program verified this with the vehicle titles that the applicants are required to submit. They must have provided bus service to the school district for at least 3 days a week on average during the 2021 or 22 school year at the time of the application. So if you're using those buses just for, say, field trips or other occasional special purposes, those would not be eligible. Next slide. New replacement buses must either have a battery electric CNG or propane drivetrain. They must be certified vehicle model 2021 or newer. You should check this with your vendor if you're not sure. They must have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, just like the old vehicles. And this one is very important to remember. I want to make a note of this. They should not be ordered prior to receiving your official notification of selection by EPA. We've come up against this in the past with other programs. Sometimes people order their vehicles in advance. That's not allowable under this program. We will require the selected fleets to submit purchase orders. And if the date on that document is prior to the selection date, you can't receive funding for that vehicle. So please make a note of that. They must be purchased and not leased owned, which again, we will verify. Next slide now. The new replacement buses must serve the school district on the application for at least 5 years from the date of delivery. You cannot sell off the bus during that time. They must meet
Sorry, it seems that Riley might have frozen for a little bit.
Yeah,
hope
so-
she gets back on.
So Michelle, I'm sorry, it looks like Allison froze on her end. Can you pick this up from here?
I will, yes. Let's see. I'll start with, yes, I'll start number 6. Serve the school district listed on the application for at least 5 years from the date of delivery. Meet the federal safety standards and be maintained and operated, insured, registered, and charged fuel according to the manufacturer's recommendations and state requirements. They must not include an unvented diesel passenger heater, and they must not be funded with other federal funds. So you can't use other federal money to purchase the vehicle. And then upon request, EPA may ask for an inspection of the vehicle up to 5 years from the date of delivery. Next slide. I'm going to do my best with these. Allison was prepping for these, but essentially what it is, when I was talking about the criteria earlier, how I said there's priority school districts and non-priority. The first the first row, the buses serving school districts that meet one or more prioritized criteria, that's the priority school districts where they'll get additional money for the vehicles. So for example, the ZEV class 7 or higher, they'd get up to $375,000 versus the non-priority school districts will only receive $250,000 for that same vehicle. Next slide. And then as far as the infrastructure funding portion of it, we will fund up to $20,000 for the ZEV class 3 infrastructure funding. And that's for $20,000 is for the priority school districts and $13,000 is for the non-priority school districts. And that's for the infrastructure funding portion. Next slide. So what can EPA fund and what can we not fund for the infrastructure funding? We can fund everything to the right of the red dashed line. So we could fund the electric panel, we can fund the charging station, and we can fund the school bus. We cannot fund the utility distribution network, the transformer, or the electric meter. You have to make sure that all level 2 charging infrastructure that is purchased under the program must be EPA Energy Star certified. And EPA highly recommends that recommends that all other charging infrastructure under the program be listed by a national recognized testing laboratory. Next slide. And Allison did just get back to me. She is trying to get back in. So if there's questions about the infrastructure portion for the bill, she can definitely answer those. I'm going to turn it over actually to Kelsey, and she'll talk about the application process.
Great, thanks, Michelle. So for the application process, applicants must submit applications using the EPA's Clean School Bus rebate forms. In order to apply, organizations must have an active System for Award Management SAM.gov entity registration and have points of contact listed under their organization's SAM.gov entity registration. And please note that SAM.gov is transitioning from using a DUNS number to having a new unique entity ID or UEI. So your organization is going to need that UEI number in order to set up the SAM.gov and apply. And just a a reminder that late applications will not be accepted. So please ensure you submit by the project deadline. And additionally, EPA will post a Q&A document and anticipates updating that Q&A document every 2 weeks during the application period. Next slide. So we really wanted to reiterate here that if you don't have a SAM.gov account, to please set one up immediately. And if you already have an existing account, make sure that it's active. And if you happen to have any issues along the way, this slide is meant to show that you have the Federal Service Desk available to you to answer any of your SAM.gov questions. There's an FAQ, there's a live chat feature, and as well as the phone number there to call as well. Next slide. So this is how the selection process will work. Applications received by the deadline will be placed in a single ordered list using a random number generator lottery process. EPA will select applicants for funding, working from the top to the bottom of the list until all funds are allocated from both the Clean School Bus and Zero Emission halves of funding. To ensure a broad geographic distribution of funds, EPA will select at least one application per state or territory, provided there is at least one eligible application. And lastly, applicants not selected by the lottery will remain in random number order on that wait list. And again, refer to the program guide here for more information on the selection process. Next slide, please. So selectee requirements. EPA anticipates notifying applicants of their selection status within 60 days of the application deadline. The notification will include 3 things. 1, that they have been selected for funding. 2, the maximum amount of funds that have been reserved for them. And 3, instructions on proceeding with the purchase of new buses and eligible infrastructure. Following that, shortly after, is the payment request form, which must be submitted by our selectees online within 60 days from official notification. The submission must include proof of purchase orders for the new school buses and any eligible infrastructure. And a side note here, selectees can request extensions to the project period deadline. EPA will review these requests on a case-by-case basis and may grant extensions if sufficient justification is provided. Next slide, please. And our closeout requirements. So once selectees have received their new buses and eligible infrastructure and have replaced their old buses, they must submit an online closeout form. The closeout form must be submitted within 2 years of the date of the selection notification. The closeout form will require selectees to attach items like scrappage photos, a certification letter for buses being replaced, invoices for new buses and eligible infrastructure, as well as photos of the new buses and any charging infrastructure. And following that, we require record retention of all financial records, supporting documents and accounting books and other evidence of rebate program activities for 5 years after delivery of the new buses. And again, please reference the program guide for more information on this. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle. Next slide.
Thanks, Kelsey. So just to recap, EPA does anticipate awarding $500 million. Sorry, one sec. $500 million for the rebate funding for zero emission and the clean school buses. Again, we can't reiterate enough. Get started on your SAM.gov account. Make sure if you have one that it is listed as active and that you have points of contact listed. Refer to the program guide and we'll make sure that's included in the chat as it was just released today. So refer to the program guide for additional guidance. Initiate discussions now with your utility company. So if you could talk to them about the zero emission buses and how best to make that happen. Online application period, I forgot to update this slide, did open today, May 20th, and will close on August 19th. Next slide. You want to learn more information? Here's some great links. You can review the program guide. You can sign up for the Clean School Bus listserv if you haven't done so already. And if you're on the listserv, you would have gotten notification this morning about the announcement for the program guide. You could check the EPA website for the latest program updates. And also there's a bunch of webinars that are coming up that are listed on our website. You could submit feedback or questions to the cleanschoolbus@epa.gov email address. And you could also reach out to the regional staff if you have additional questions. Next slide. There's some upcoming webinars that I highly encourage you to attend. The one on May 24th is being sponsored by our headquarters office, and it'll give an update on the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. So definitely one you don't want to miss if you're interested in applying for the funding. May 26th, we're having a Mid-Atlantic Diesel Collaborative call, which will be very similar to this presentation today. And it's titled Clean School Bus Opportunities, a How-To Guide. And we'll have a school district there talking about their experiences converting their fleet to electric. So definitely one that you can attend. June 2nd, there's a School Bus Electrification State Policy Options webinar. Next slide, please. And then if you have a story that you want to share, if you've started to convert your vehicles to electric or alt fuels or clean fuels and you want to share your story, we're looking for school districts to share their story and spotlight on upcoming webinars or on some flyers that we'd like to develop. We're also interested in hearing from rural school districts willing to share their story, because we know that's definitely a concern of some of those rural school districts. So if you've done it and you have experiences to share, please reach out and let us know, because we'd love to work with you to communicate your story to everyone. Next slide. Next slide.
I know EPA had some poll questions, so why don't we pull up the poll questions, and while those are opening up, I will read some of the questions from the chat, and we can kind of do this concurrently.
Thanks. And there's, just for everybody's benefit, on the presentation, there are contact information on this last slide, so you'll have all of our contact info there.
And we will, I posted in the chat, we'll send a link of where the presentation's posted to all the attendees. Okay, so I think this first one I'm going to ask is, when you say the project must meet one of the 3 priorities, does that mean if you don't, it doesn't have a good chance of being funded?
That's a question that I could take. Thanks, Sean. No, we recommend, just because if you're not a priority school district, we encourage everybody to attend or to apply for the funding. But yes, there are some benefits to being a priority school district, such as in getting more money for some of the school buses and infrastructure. It doesn't mean that if you're a non-priority school district that you won't get money. We encourage everybody to apply.
And can I just add to that? And I apologize, my internet cut out at the worst possible time. I'm so sorry, everyone. We don't know what the pool of applicants is going to look like for this first year. So I would just encourage everyone, if you have any mind to apply, if you're ready to apply, you know, not everybody is this year. So I would go for it if you have that in mind and you're able to.
Okay, and Allison, since we have you back on the line, this next question, is the spare bus completely ineligible? If it's not used,
yes, you have to meet those 3-day-a-week requirements. That is, you know, as far as I know, there are not exceptions that are going to be made for that. Again, I just saw the guidance this morning for the first time in its entirety. So you know, if you want to call me in a week and you know, once I've had a chance to really read through it, but to the best of my understanding, that 3-day-week requirement is non-negotiable.
okay, and let's see, the next question. Yeah, where did I put it? I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm gonna have to go back into the chat.
That's okay. We're running the poll now. We have about 21% of the audience who's taken the poll. So we'll give it another minute while you.
I see there's a CNG bus question.
You know, that was the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are older CNG buses eligible? I don't think so, but I would have to double check that. We can try to verify that. There is going to be, I believe there's an FAQ document. We generally send questions for this program through a central email serve, so that everybody can be incorporated into those FAQs and everybody can benefit from the answer to that question. So I can put that through.
Actually, I found the other one I was looking for
Yeah.
the other alternative fuels is infrastructure also going to be funded. CNG
don't-
stations, propane
I believe
stations.
we're only funding the electrical hookups, yeah.
Yeah, we would have to confer with the program guide, but I believe Allison's correct on that.
Okay, and then the State Departments of Ed asked if there are, does EPA have support materials available or posted for State Departments of Ed for this program?
All our materials are available on our website. I don't think we have anything specific to state departments, but
No, they will be posting additional information. There's a bunch of resources on there now. There's a flyer that I just received that I'm going to share with everybody on the call today that announces the funding, and it goes into a bit of detail about it. But if you're looking for other specific things, certainly reach out to myself or Allison or one of the program contacts, and we could see if we could get you what you need.
So I want to thank Emmett and Lily are answering questions in the chat as they're coming up. So it's a good place for folks to look while we're doing this.
And I think I do remember seeing a question on Sean. Somebody asked about the 25 school buses, the max 25 school buses.
I was saving that for
For the last. I think I might as well just I'll ask that now or answer that now. Yeah, I mean, they listed 25 because they wanted to spread the wealth amongst all of the school districts. And we understand there are larger school districts and smaller ones, but if they cap it at 25, that hopefully it'll reach a wider audience and other school districts will be able to receive the funding.
And that question was, if they're only funding 25 buses, larger school districts, how do they address their fleets? In Philadelphia, they have 1,000 buses. So great, spread the wealth, introduce them to the technology, and future rounds and for expansion, other opportunities, right? So
That is absolutely correct, Sean. You're right. And there will be other funding opportunities. This is just the first year. We're looking at possibly having some possible national grant competitions in the fall. And again, this is just the first year of the funding. There will be 4 more years to come. And as this program evolves, things may change and they may see that there's a need to make adjustments to the program guide. So this is just the first year.
And I do want to put an advertisement out. The bill is so much bigger than any one program, and there's funding for electric vehicles and clean vehicles in many other programs.
Yeah, and to put it into perspective, I mean, the Clean School Bus Rebate Program for fiscal year 21, that's been an existing program for years. We received $10 million nationally, and this is 500 million. It's a lot more. So it's definitely a lot of money that we're still trying to understand all of the nuances of the program guide and what's applicable. But definitely, if you're interested, apply, even if you're not a priority school district. There's just a ton of funding out there.
I see I saw there was a question about, it was referencing pricing. I don't have pricing information off the top of my head, but I know one of the goals of this program is to bring those price points down in the future. So as the production ramps up, as the demand increases, we hope to see that technology become more accessible to everyone in the future, if that makes sense.
And Sean, maybe we could just ask Lily and Emmett if there are any other questions they thought that might warrant an answer.
Sorry, Michelle, I was just quickly trying to type in the chat some of the, try to get answers to some of these chat questions here. Was there something they asked specifically, or you guys were just talking? I apologize, I kind of zoned out there.
No, not a problem. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just
okay.
didn't know if you had any questions that you thought might warrant a verbal answer.
At this point, no, because you guys are kind of given the correct, what I understand, again, as Michelle and Allison have mentioned, unfortunately, the program guide just came out this morning, and it might surprise people. We haven't actually seen it ourselves, or we just had the tidbits that everyone's been getting, through these past webinars. So I think, what Michelle and Allison have been trying to provide you verbally, and me in the chat, is what we're kind of aware of, up until this program guide coming out, and hopefully some of this, if we can't answer some of these questions, or even if our answers are vague, you hopefully get better answers in that program guide. And And as Allison said, they're supposed to have like a frequently asked question kind of document that I think it's monthly. They're gonna, they update it based on people, submitting comments directly to that clean school bus at EPA.gov email. So we encourage you to do that. And we're not trying to just kind of pass you off because we don't want to help you out in the regions. Is that it kind of it's twofold really. One, it raises to upper management and headquarters of making these final decisions on what are the real concerns and things that maybe they've missed so far on trying to roll out this first program and get lessons learned for all these future funding mechanisms to get this $5 billion out over the next 5 years. And like I said, it'll also help out people who might have the similar questions if it's on that national FAQ thing. So you kind of see me here and there kind of encouraging to submit comments to that clean school bus at EPA.gov when we're kind of not sure on it. And I think it'll just help everyone out nationally,
Thanks, Emmett.
All right, so folks, I'm going to wrap up the questions here at this point. I know we certainly have some others, but just to share the results of the poll, about 40% of the folks are planning on applying for this funding, although a little bit over half still want to learn more. How many buses do you anticipate applying for? Again, about 40% are 0 to 5, 13% 5 to 10. 7% between 10 and each between 10 and 15 and 15 and 20. And then the third of the folks on looking at the full funding amount, 20 to 25 buses. Electric, by far the most interest at 67%, clean combo, 13%. And again, more information about a fifth of folks. What resources do we need to make a better decision? Right, everybody wants to take a look at the applications and eligibility requirements and assistance at 60%. Assistance with fleet determinations, 13%, infrastructure assistance, 13%, and other 13%. So good. So hopefully some of those questions will be answered in our next presentations. All right, thanks, Elise. So good. Well, thank you, folks. EPA did a very great job. I want to introduce our next speaker is Tony Bandiero, the Executive Director from the Eastern Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Transportation, which is our Eastern Pennsylvania's Clean Cities program. Tony, welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody, all the organizations that helped get this meeting together, the EPA, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, and PECO, and ourselves. Next slide. I looked at the list, the attendee list, and I know a lot of you, and there's a lot of you I don't know. So I'm not sure, and I put this slide up because we're not sure if you know what the Clean Cities program is all about. So we always usually give it just a 10,000 foot overview of what we do as Clean Cities. I want to give a couple of shout outs before I go. I see my counterpart in Western Pennsylvania, Rick Price is on the line. I see Barry Carr, who's the Syracuse Clean Cities director. And then I want to also shout out to Caroline McCallum, who works with me, but is going to be the New Jersey co-coordinator for the Clean Cities in New Jersey. So I want to welcome them. And then one other shout out besides the other people I had mentioned, I want to shout out to David Altoff from the state DEP. He has been instrumental in pushing a lot of the programs forward through Pennsylvania. So I wanted to give him a shout out because I saw him on the line. But 10,000, I know we're real short on time, so I'm going to run through these fast so PECO can get in there. So real quick, we're part of the Department of Energy's Clean Cities program. We started in 1993 from the Energy Policy Act, and basically the Department of Energy formed these organizations to be grassroots organizations within the communities, not just cities. Although we did start in Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, PECO were original members and still are members of our organization today. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so we don't. The good thing is we don't sell. We don't sell infrastructure. We don't sell buses. We don't sell power. But what we're good at really is kind of putting these projects together, getting everybody together on the same page, and implementing the vehicles on the road. That's the main goal, is to replace the old diesels and gasoline vehicles with alternative fuels. Speaking of that, if you look down on the bottom of the slide, those are the 6 types of alternative fuels that we support. So yes, we love electricity, but we also support the other technologies. We've done a lot of propane school bus projects, natural gas school bus projects, and then we support the biofuels, biodiesel and ethanol, and then hydrogen fuel cells. The nice thing about our organization is that we are member-based, stakeholder-based. So we have both public and private companies, state and local governments are part of us, municipalities, and of course, utilities are a part of our organization. Like I said, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, so we kind of beg, borrow, and plead to get funding to do some of the programs that we put on. So one of our main things is we assist with grants, incentives, vouchers, and rebates. So if anybody has any questions or wants any help, that's especially for this program, we want to make sure that everybody understands what the application process is. For this first round on the EPA, it's seems like it's a pretty easy process where you're not having to walk through a whole grant process, but in later rounds, you may want to discuss that with us, but we can still help you get through this first voucher program, lottery program. Okay, so over the years, I've been at the helm for 13 years, and we've received over $30 million for our stakeholders, and the projects that we've done have cost, with public investment and private investment have been over $90 million total. One of the great things that we do as Clean Cities, and I didn't mention this, but there's 70 of us across the country. So there's only 2 in Pennsylvania. It's our organization in the Pittsburgh region, Clean Cities, and we cover all the states, the whole state. And I just wanted to go through that. But one of the nice things of being Clean Cities is we're part of the Department of Energy. So we have a technical assistance response team that's available at our fingertips. There's 70 of us across the nation. So we work with the national labs, NREL, Argonne, and Sandia Labs, any other labs that are federally sponsored. We work with those guys. So we are good at getting information at the drop of a hat on any type of, question you may have for technology. Some of the other things we do is project management. Obviously, when we get grant funding, we help some of our constituents with the management of those grants and projects. And then the last thing, and this is one of our greatest accomplishments, is the education outreach. So we bring you programs like this. We do a lot of electric vehicle programs. Little side note here, July 20th at PECO, this will be our 11th year doing our the only smoke in the air networking barbecue, because the only smoke that's coming out will be from the barbecue and not from our electric vehicles on display. So next slide, please. So I was real quick. This is where we started out. We started out in 1993, almost 30 years ago, in the Delaware Valley. You can click it now. And this is our territory now. So we have the Delaware Valley where we started, but we've been doing work in all these other counties. So we have 34 counties of central and eastern Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh region has the other 33 counties. So we are tasked by the Department of Energy to work in all these counties to help school districts and fleets to convert to alternative fuels. Next slide. Okay, so I'm gonna go over a project that we're working on right now, which would be interest to you guys. It's called the Mid-Atlantic Electric School Bus Experience Project, or MEEP as we call it. So it was awarded by the U.S. Department of Energy. It's a partnership of school bus manufacturers, Clean Cities Coalitions, and others. And we provide the goal of the project is to provide free electric school buses for multi-day vehicle demos in selected school fleets throughout Virginia, Maryland, DC, PA, and New Jersey. Projects go until 2023. We might get an extension on that, but I wanted to bring this project in the forefront because we are working on it, and we really are looking for participation from both vendors of electric school buses and school districts. Next slide, please. Okay, so the goals of the project obviously is to increase awareness and adoption of electric school buses in project region, build local support for electric school buses, gather operational data. So that's one of the things we want to do, is get these buses in your hands and make sure that you're comfortable, or if you have any questions or there's issues, we can address them as we go and as the industry advances. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are our partners: Virginia Clean Cities, Greater Washington Clean Cities, New Jersey Clean Cities, and Maryland Clean Cities. And these are the other partners. VEIC has been a great partner, and then you can see the two two of the bus distributors, Thomas and Bluebird, are also partners. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the flavor of who's working with us on this project. Next slide, please. Okay, so the goals of the advantages of electric school buses, if you didn't know, these are just a few of them. I didn't list them all, but zero tailpipe emissions, elimination of particulate matter and NOx. As the EPA mentioned, there's over 25 million school children transported daily. The nice thing, obviously, now is that it costs a lot less to fuel an electric school bus than a diesel powered one, for sure, and reduce operation and maintenance costs. And we can get into the specifics of that later on if you want to talk about that. But obviously, there's less moving parts on an electric vehicle than there is on an internal combustion engine. So there's reduced operation and maintenance costs for that. And then one of the great things, and I think a lot of people are experiencing this, is the less noise pollution on the buses. So it's not only good for the kids that ride the buses, it's great for the bus driver, and it's great for the community. So you don't hear these school buses. Next slide. Okay, so we are looking for participants still, and I know probably about 2 years ago we had sent out applications to see who wanted to be part of this pilot project. So we're still taking applications. So any school district or contractor that's looking to be a part of this project, we welcome you. We get, like I said, it changed. We get a multi-day usage of this electric school bus to see what routes, or to see if it's going to fit in your niche. Like I said, the areas we cover: Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and DC. And again, this is to provide an in-depth, firsthand introduction to the electric school bus technology. Next slide, please. One of the nice things about this program, and that I'll give a shout out to Howard Harris as well from VEIC, who's on this call, is now we have a technical assistance for this program. So if you're not sure about a lot of the ins and outs and nuances of electric school buses and the charging and things like that, we can provide that information to you by filling out an application, and then for free, VEIC with the World Resource Institute will evaluate your fleet, give you the answers to what you might need to know to start down the electric school bus pathway. Next one. Okay, so funding mechanisms. Obviously, we're here to talk about the EPA's Clean School Bus Program, but there are other opportunities as well. Like I said, we are a nonprofit, so we're kind of up on our grants and funding mechanisms. So I just did a real quick overview of some of the federal. This is a federal slide. So you have U.S. Department of Energy. There's always funding opportunities and announcements, FOAs. That goes through the Clean Cities a lot of the times. We've been working with the FHWA for the alternative fuel corridors. And I also want to give a shout out to PennDOT, who's not on the call, but we've been working with them to designate corridors throughout the state of Pennsylvania that are federally certified as alternative fuel corridors. We're working with them right now on this NEVI formula program that came out from the bill. And what happened is the Department of Energy and the Federal Highway Administration formed a joint office for energy and transportation to work over this electric vehicle infrastructure formula. So in the green, you can see some of the funding that's going to be happening. There's $5 billion over 5 years in this program. PA is getting 1.71 million of those dollars. And that program is really to basically fill out the electric charging infrastructure throughout the state. So if you buy an electric school bus, you can take it on road trips if you need to and charge at a fast charger somewhere where you not have to worry about range. So that's one of the nice things about that. So I put it up there. And I'm in the past, the EPA, has always put up the the DERA Act, Diesel Emission Reduction Act. The DERA program is usually about $5 to $10 million a year. So I think that program's still going on. So that's one of the things that you can also look at for funding. And then obviously we're talking about the Clean School Bus Program for this year that started today. Next slide. So here's some of the state funding that's available. We've been very active working with the state and helping these and some school districts. And on the next couple of slides, I'll show you some of the districts we work with. But there's the Alternative Fuel Incentive Grant, usually $5 to $6 million a year. that can fund vehicle retro or purchase. It can also fund some infrastructure for charging stations. And if you have some innovative technology, it'll also fund that. From what I heard, this year is only going to be about $3 million available for that program. So the applications are going to be more competitive than ever. But we've been very successful helping some of the school districts obtain some of this funding. And then the other Pennsylvania program we have is the Driving PA Forward, which some people might know as Volkswagen settlement money. And the bulleted points are some of the programs under that programs that they fund. So the Class 8 Class 8 school bus, shuttle bus, or transit bus program might be one, and that's been a voucher program in the past. So that might be one that you'd be interested in as well. And we could help you navigate the details of that. Next slide. Okay, so these some of the school districts that working with EPAC. Hopefully, if your logo is not up there, it will be. But we've helped a lot of these school districts, and I'm being honest, most of these have been propane school buses, but there have been a couple of electric ones recently that we've helped get some funding to do this stuff. So if you're not sure about it, whether it's electric or propane or natural gas, we can sit down with you and kind of review the benefits of each and talk you through each one of those types of fuels. Next slide. So I told you we're a member-based organization, so I wanted to give a shout out to two of our members, Bright Bill, they are the Bluebird distributor in pretty much central and eastern Pennsylvania. And then we have Rohrer, who is a Thomas Built distributor. They are both members, and I did see E-Line was on the call. They're not members of our organization, but they also make an electric school bus. And there's others as well, but I just wanted to give a shout out to these two particular organizations that have helped us through the years, help our other stakeholders. Next slide. That's it. There's my contact information, and I think these slides are going to be available. We'll put a link up on our website so you guys can get it, and then we will send it out.
Great, thank you, Tony. Just one very quick question. Who is the Clean Cities program in Delaware?
I am not sure. That one keeps changing, and that just so you know, that Clean Cities is part of their energy office. Similar to Maryland, they're not a standalone nonprofit, so it would be somebody in the energy. I can get you that contact right as we speak later. I'll go look online and see who it is. I'm not, because it changes a lot, but it's that one is housed through the energy department of Delaware. I know that.
Great, thank you. I think that was the only question. Thanks so much, Tony. Good job. So to switch gears a little bit, I'd like to introduce Tom Bonner from PECO Energy Company, and Tom will be talking about PECO's programs and how they can facilitate your school bus electrification program.
Thank you very much, Sean. As most folks probably know, PECO is the local electric distribution company for the entire Southeast PA region. We also provide natural gas service in the suburban counties. I'm pleased to be joined today by three of our colleagues who may be working with you if you're moving forward on projects. We have Nick Scarborough from our Large Customer Services Group. Nick is our point person in large customer services for all infrastructure investment or bipartisan infrastructure law programs. So there may be other programs that you're interested in, such as the energy efficient and renewable schools. If so, please work with us, reach out to Nick or either of my other two colleagues who are working directly with these accounts, Joe Fregala, who is handling the schools for all of our suburban counties, and then Karen Douglas, who is working with the Philadelphia Board of Education. Each one of them would be, they're your resource team as schools for projects that are funded under the bipartisan infrastructure law. As far as PECO, this program today, and thank you to the DVRPC, EPAC, and our colleagues at Atlantic City Electric for co-hosting us this morning. This is part of our Path to Clean commitment. So in August of last year, PECO, along with our other Exelon Utilities colleagues, we're part of a group of 6 utility companies, announced a commitment to reduce our own operational emissions by 50% by 2030 aiming toward a goal of net zero by 2050. And along with that, while that only applies to our business operations, we have an equally important goal of working with our customers and communities to help them reduce their own carbon footprints. So we see the bipartisan infrastructure law as an extraordinary opportunity, maybe not a once in a lifetime, but certainly once a decade opportunity to help make projects happen that will make our communities cleaner and our customers able to enjoy the benefits of clean energy. So in terms of the zero emission bus program and electric vehicles in general and fleets, we have really 5 steps that we recommend to customers. Number 1 is to build your charging needs into your initial vehicle purchase. So as you are talking to your vehicle vendors, make sure you understand what the charging requirements will be for those vehicles and bring them on your team, because we will need to work with them going forward. The second thing is to know your fleet vehicle requirements, how these buses are going to be used, what the average miles per day will be, what the hours of service will be, because knowing that will lead you to the third component of what you need to know, and that is how that your electric bill will depend on how you charge. Really, when you charge and at what capacity you will need to meet your requirements for keeping these vehicles on the road. One thing that Tony mentioned earlier is that another component of the bipartisan infrastructure law is building out this national network of high-speed chargers, which, as it's put in place, will give you more flexibility in, as he alluded to, using these vehicles for long road trips, for sporting teams, for the high school band going to other locations that are outside of their typical daily usage. But at the beginning, you need to know how you're going to accomplish your base goals with these vehicles. Encourage you to leverage your available support. We consider ourselves part of that available support. We are here to help you make these projects happen. This is in our interest as an organization, and it's in our community's interest to electrify and support other forms of clean transportation. We all operate in our area under Clean Air Act restrictions. It's one of, oh, I'm sorry.
We need to tell her in advance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please advance to the second slide. I'm sorry. Next slide. Hi. In this region, we all operate under Clean Air Act restrictions that are costly and can be limiting in terms of economic development, of new job creation opportunities that require us all to use more expensive fuels during parts of the year. And to the extent we can clean the air, everyone in the Delaware Valley will benefit. And in terms of your specific projects, what we encourage you to do is engage with us early and often. We are here to assist and support you. We know these projects are in many cases new, they are novel, they are different, and they will involve your electric company probably in a way that has not been required maybe since your school was first built and established. So we're here as a resource for you. And at that point, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Joe Fragala, who's going to walk through the high level what our implementation process is and how we work with the customers, how you can apply for your service needs.
Next slide, please.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. So we're near engaging PECO or Atlantic City Electric in EV school bus conversion. The first step is the potential project. The requesting school or school's vendor or the consultant submits an S&M or service and meter application to request a new service or upgrade of service. There is no cost associated with this initial or initiating request. EV infrastructure projects are very site specific with cost determined by capacity and location. So at PECO and ACE, we will process the customer electric service request. We'll get our customers assigned to a contract, a liaison, or what we call a DCC, to process the design construction consultant that will review the information and send to capacity planning for to see if we can allow the project to move forward. Capacity planning will review the request and issue a high-level cost estimate and a project or PD project design. Customer then files the application for the detailed design. If yes, the project will move forward to detailed design. Revenue credit will be applied to additional construction costs if applicable. Customer may have additional costs related to construction. If no, at the point in the process, the customer can revisit the project again at any time. If the project was stopped for more than 90 days, a new application or service meter application would need to be submitted.
You can go to the next slide. And I just wanted to kind of touch base on a few of things. That was kind of how the process goes. Either Joe or Karen will be your point of contact throughout the process, as they're your one-stop shop essentially for anything related to PECO. If we can click on the electric vehicle link, you'll see the contact there for Joe Fragala. That's related to the suburban school districts. And Karen has a relationship with the Board of Education, so they have her contact information as well. I'd like to point out anything related to EV, you'll find on our EV smart energy link. I provided the link in the slide, but this is actually on PECO.com. So you'll be able to navigate that information there. If you had any questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be able to answer any questions you have in relation to that. We also put the link on the slide for the service and meter application. So that's just a quick click of a button and you fill out the information. We recommend you engage your electrical contractor or the electric school bus company to help you get the details that we need in order to process that application. I'd also like to note that we have Atlantic City Electric also in the meeting. The contact or the manager for the contact is Eric Moberg for customer solutions at Atlantic City Electric, and the manager for large customer services, which would be my counterpart, is Vernita Coverdale in Atlantic City Electric. And their links are also available on the last, at the bottom of the slide there. Vernita or Eric, did you want to introduce yourselves?
Good morning. My name is Vernita Coverdale, and I am the manager for the large customer services team at Atlantic City Electric. This is kind of new to us. We are just taking over the schools in New Jersey and our territory from our external affairs team. So it's a good segue for us to introduce ourselves to them and to offer them something right out of the gate. So we'll come to their house bearing gifts. So we're looking forward to working with you on this project, and I will turn it over to my colleague, our sustainability solutions person, who is Eric Moberg.
Yeah, thanks, Vern, and good morning, everybody. Eric Moberg here with Atlantic City Electric. I think the process was covered pretty well from the PECO perspective, and it's almost identical to the Atlantic City Electric process. We're here to support you throughout your effort to convert to electric. I think it's important, as Tom had hit on, is engaging us early and often in the process. We want to support this effort and make it a possibility. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm happy to hand it back to the PECO folks. And thank you, Vern.
Eric, thank you so much. Just a couple points to add. We know that some of our school districts are not currently our large customer accounts. If you have one of these projects and you want to proceed with it, we will treat you as if you are for the purposes of executing this project. It is one of the challenges of electrification. We have many folks who have been relatively small electric users who, if they go electric with their vehicle needs, suddenly will turn into larger electric users. And we're working through that transition. But for the time being, we're going to say, if you want to electrify, we're here to help. Another point is Nick pointed out our EV toolkit. There are some useful items in there that you can use for sharing information with your school boards or your school officials, your principals. There is a emissions reduction calculator where you can look at, if you shift from a conventional fuel to an electric, how much your carbon emissions will be reduced. We know that is important to many of our communities. I think almost all of our communities. There is a general calculator of fuel savings that is not maybe necessarily going to be perfect because it's designed for passenger vehicles, but you can get a good view of what the comparative cost of traditional motor fuels and electricity is, and you can put in your own price for what you're currently paying for your diesel fuels. The last thing I wanted to point out is some buses will be able to meet their charging needs with what's called level 2 charging. That's a 240 volt service, typical to, or comparable to installing a new dryer in your home. That can charge a passenger vehicle about 27 miles per hour. Obviously, you're going to get less range per hour with a bus. But if you are able to charge overnight and you have a shorter range needs, that may meet your needs there. It's a cheaper form of charging, and PECO offers for all commercial customers a $2,000 per charge port incentive. That is, there's information about it on the website. And then if you are in a Pennsylvania environmental justice community, that increases to $3,000 per charge port. So we have multiple ways we are working and looking to help you move forward with these projects. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to it. We think it's going to be an exciting few months and years ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to move into question and answer period. Before we do that, regardless of where you are across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, your power utility is your partner in this project, and we certainly encourage you to reach out to them if you're considering this project. So thank you, all of you that are on the line, Tom and team. Thank you folks so much for helping us and encouraging us to put this together. It is very, very helpful. Questions have slowed down a little bit, and Emmett has been great with answering some of these questions on the chat. But what I guess I would recommend, since the chat questions have slowed down, if you want to ask a question, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll call on you, and you can unmute yourself.
Sean, can I kick things off with a question?
Absolutely.
When our friends from EPA were talking about the funding that is allowed for infrastructure upgrades to support electric school bus charging, I believe it was for a standard non-prioritized community, $13,000, for a priority county or priority school district, $20,000. Is that per project, or does that travel with each vehicle? So if you're doing 10 vehicles, you get that $13,000 allocation for each vehicle.
This is Emmett. Yeah, I wasn't sure myself until last week, and we got clarity from headquarters. It's per bus.
Bus,
So,
okay.
Right. So in essence, they're hoping maybe that 13,000, that 20,000 to 13,000, will help for that upfront cost for the customer side. The actual electric pedestal, and maybe that's the electric panel, the breaker aspect. So they're trying to give it per bus.
Thank you very much. That is very helpful.
And that's a great question. We could definitely make sure we update our slides to reflect that. So thank you.
One question: does Net Ed First Energy participate in this program? Now, I'm going to plead ignorance. I'm not sure what that refers to.
I'll speak on behalf of PECO. We work closely with all of our Pennsylvania utility colleagues. We know that they are all interested in these bipartisan infrastructure law programs and promoting electrification. If the person wants to follow up and just provide their name and contact information, I'll be more than happy to connect you with folks at First Energy Med-Ed.
Yeah, Tom, can you hear me, Sean? This is Tony. Yeah, I want to add to Tom's comment that we're looking to kind of host in our region, and I know Rick in Pittsburgh region hosts something similar to this. So we'll be working with the local electric distributors, and then the rural. I know the rural is a big thing, so the rural co-ops, we're going to try and work with them and get it in those towns as well. So we're going to do something similar to this. And obviously, you got it. The time is of the essence because it opened today. So I just want to let everybody know that.
And I think, another thing we're trying to convey across the bill programs and to our other constituents on all these things, first year of funding certainly take a look at this program, take a look at the requirements and what goes into it, and think about next year. And, you know, if you're not ready this year, there is going to be a next year, and really take your time and get your project together and get a good project together for funding, you know, in future years. We want to take a crack at it and, you know, bring money to the Region 3 and Region 2, you know, with this first round, but recognize that there are future rounds, and put together a good project, and you know, let's look at next year. Question in the chat, and Emmett did a great job of answering this, but so I'll go ahead and just read it. You know, who can bid on this program?
As far as the Clean School Bus Rebate Program, there are
Yes.
the priority school districts, which we outlined there with the 3 criteria, but there are 4. If you go back to the one slide, let me get to it. I outlined 4 eligible applicants that can apply. That would be the state and local government entities, and there's a criteria under that. There's the nonprofit School Transportation Association, the Indian tribes, tribal organizations, or tribally controlled schools, and then the eligible contractors. So they could review those slides, and and the program guide outlines it a bit more. And if they're not sure, they could reach out to the EPA email box or one of the regional contacts, and we could help them determine if they're eligible.
Right, and then this is Emmett. You know, again, I kind of try to respond in the chat. You know, in the sense that I don't know if that might be a private fleet owner, you know, that has a contract with a public school, and you know, the reality is, I guess, you know, those public schools, you know, rebid those contracts, you know, every certain amount of years, and I guess they might have their own internal bidding process. So I don't know if it was related to that. And I would just kind of say, you know, the reality is, you know, we would not be involved with, you know, those internal school, you know, public schools, you know, bidding processes, or how they choose private fleet owners. You know, this first round of funding is, you know, supposed to be like a simple process, like an online application where, you know, either the public school district could apply on their own, or, you know, they could reach out to one of their contractors. And again, that's why, you know, we don't get involved, because, you know, if they have more than one contractor, it really be the school district deciding how they decide which private fleet owner to kind of reach out to, you know, at least for this first rebate funding. So if you are a private fleet owner, you probably would want to reach out to your, you know, the public school district you might have a contract with, to understand, you know, do they wish you to apply, or are they going to have their own internal mechanism to understand how they will decide. But, you know, this rebate is supposed to be pretty straightforward. You know, it might be only 1 or 2 page online application, and us giving you that money, you know, pretty quickly within the first 6 months, understand the upfront cost of these electric buses. So I would just say that. Hopefully that answers the question.
I got a question. Sorry, I was going to type it in chat, but since I'm up here, is that funding available? I lost my question. Is that funding that you're talking about going to be available for multiple users on one application? I think you said that, but how does that work on the application process? Is there a spot to say, hey, we're working with this organization, and this organization for this application? Do you know that? You know what I mean? Because I know we want to partner, you're trying to partner some people that can apply with people that can.
Yeah, so that's a great question. There will be opportunities in the application package for them to document the private fleets that they work with in the school district. So that is part of the application process.
Yeah, and Tony, you know, I apologize again. You know, we're not fully aware of how that application looks online. I know, at least I understand, you could probably mix and match school buses. So let's say maybe you just want 1 electric and maybe, you know, 2 propane. The fleet aspect, if it's a private fleet, you know, it's unclear to me at this stage, and you know, I'm assuming it's going to be clarified in that program guide. Is, you know, let's say if it's a public school district, can they put down more than 1 of their private contractors on that application? You know, my impression was they could only choose 1, but, you know, again, we didn't actually see the program guide in advance. So, and again, I'm hoping that'll be clarified, with this program guide, actually out today. And if it is just one, again, I'd hope that doesn't discourage, this public fleet owner, this public school districts that might have multitude of private fleet contractors, because, the reality is this is just the first funding mechanism, and we're going to have more down the road. And, headquarters is proposing, something similar we've done in the past with our other funding program, that Diesel Emission Reduction Act, grant style in the fall, which, I think there'd be more opportunity for, a multitude of contractors, servicing a specific public school district to apply, I would believe,
And there's also going to be, it's not out yet, but it's coming soon, an application guidance document that will accompany the application and hopefully answer some questions.
And one more question to clarify, because I think when we had a meeting, or you had at one of your other webinars, you had said that the scrappage wasn't required, and now you're saying it's required, correct? Like you have to scrap a diesel vehicle, or if you get permission to scrap a gasoline bus, you have to do that, correct? For this project, for this program?
For the newer vehicles, you do have the option to sell or donate. But for
Okay.
2010 or older, then yes, you have to scrap the vehicle.
Okay, so it's 2010 or older, you have to scrap. Anything of the newer ones you can sell or donate. Okay.
And
gotcha.
I should add, there is a process for scrappage. If anybody who's
Right.
involved in it before, knows there's a lot we require. So you would need to pay attention to your documentation for that. Sorry.
That's great, Allison. And one more thing while we're talking about it, can on the funding, it's not, this is a reimbursement program, correct? People,
Yes.
so everybody should know that up front, that they have to lay out the money for the bus and they get it back, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yes, and
that's important.
we also though have normally the school bus program runs a year, but this time we've extended it to 2 years because we understand there's going to be delays, there's supply chain issues. We want to make sure everyone's got enough time to manage. And there is you are able to have a brief, I can't remember how long it is, Michelle, maybe you remember, but there's a time period where you're allowed to operate both buses before you scrap the older bus. Do you remember how long it is, Michelle?
Hey, Tony, Allison, I just want to provide a little bit of clarity. Again, the program got just rolled out, but my impression was, like our traditional school-based rebate program, maybe some folks have seen before, we usually give the money at the end once you show us the scrappage. In this case, understanding that these electric school buses can be 3 times the cost of a diesel, we are trying to give the money more upfront. So in essence, once you give us a purchase order, you'll get the money.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big difference. Yeah, that's
it's a big difference.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's all right, Allison.
I
But
only
again,
had
there might be
a
complexities
chance to
with
read through this
schools, with public schools, when, how they bid things and all. So maybe they still got to upfront the money because maybe, until the purchase order is actually, I don't know. I guess once you get, maybe they have to wait till the delivery of the bus before, they feel comfortable using that money. I don't know. But in essence, you have 6 months to give us a purchase order, and then we would, once you have proof of that, we would give them the money.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
The money kind of upfront. Yeah.
Correct.
That's a
I
great
think they were calling it an advance payment. So Emmett's correct. So once you send in the purchase orders, we'll review all the documentation. And it's my understanding, again, we haven't been able to read the program guide, that we'll do the advance payment. And we don't have to wait for the final documentation for the extension.
I'm sorry, I must have misspoke, excuse me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's important for school districts because, obviously cash flow is a big thing. And, if they were going for 20, it's going to make a big difference on how many buses they order up front if they got to lay out all the cash at one time. So this what you just said now is a big difference. And I hope all the school districts listening, understand that you can get the money as soon as you show them a purchase order. That's great. Thank you.
And that was our understanding. Again, we haven't reviewed the program guide to verify that that's in there, but that's what they were talking about originally.
Great.
And I think this is a related question, and I guess I know you haven't seen the application yet. Is school board approval required for applying? The actual question was, if they apply, get awarded, is it an issue and the school board ultimately doesn't apply after seeing the final estimates? Is that a problem with them pulling out of the program? But then that leads to the question, is that school board approval required for the application?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but we could take a look at the application document itself and see that.
That's not something that we've required in the past, although I know that sometimes schools get tripped up on that and have had to withdraw from the program because of that. But I don't believe there's any penalty for withdrawal if it comes to that.
Yeah, I think Alice is correct. Traditionally for the other school bus rebate program, if something, a hiccup happens along the way because, maybe it isn't, it might be the infrastructure part because, the reality is, depending on how aggressive they are, if they're trying to electrify a fleet, unfortunately, we're just paying for the pedestal and that electric panel. But, once you start speaking to your local utility and understand, that back door, upgrade to the electrical and, what the incentives may or may not be at your local utility, that may become an issue, to be quite honest with you, when people are trying to get their budgets approved through their local school districts. But, I can't imagine this program will be different from the others in the past, where if that happens, you let us know and, withdraw at that point. And again, that might go back to Tony's question. You may not want to actually use that. You might have that money up front, but don't use it to make sure until you're sure, you understand the infrastructure part with your utility and make sure you got your approvals at, at your local school district boards and all that. But, the reality is we probably would not get involved with that because, every school district approaches it differently. We're probably just assuming, if you submitted it, you're kind of going through the process and you believe, this is something that you can accomplish.
And I feel pretty comfortable saying there will be more guidance moving forward. I'm sure we will do lots of hand holding as this process progresses. We're going to have new applicants that have never participated in the program before, and, new to the technology. There's, this is a big new thing, and we're going to want to make sure people have all the advantages they need to get it done successfully.
Yeah, and EPA, the regional offices and headquarters, I know headquarters will be hosting weekly meetings in the near future. So I encourage people to attend and participate and ask questions. And there'll also be some specific topic related webinars that headquarters will be doing, but the regions themselves will also be doing webinars to help answer some of the questions about the application process. And since it was just released today, we'll hopefully know in the next couple of days a bit more about the application process itself.
Hey, so thank you. Hey, folks, the one thing I'm going to want everybody to come back to future efforts. So I'm going to promise to get you out on time. So two things I want to do to wrap up to get you out of here on time as promised. We have posed a question from EPA. Mari, if you could repost it just to put it down at the bottom. EPA question, are there other challenges that are stopping you from applying for the funds? And if the attendees could fill in their answer to the chat, we will get the transcript over to EPA so they can take a look at your answer. And then while you're doing that, I just want to give it over to Tom for a last comment, and then we'll give you a quick thank you.
Yeah, one thing we didn't say explicitly, what we found with a lot of other EV charging projects is having someone go on site to look at where you're proposing to locate your charging and where it interconnects with our system. Getting that discussion up front early is often very helpful. Your ideal location for putting the charging may not be the ideal location for interconnecting with your utility. We can help you work through that. Joe will go on site and work with you and help you find that location match. And I'm sure our friends at Atlantic City Electric will do the same.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Tony, thank you. EPA, last words. Thank you so much for everything you did to help us pull this together and for being here, the great information. We'll leave you with the last word.
No, I mean, again, if people have questions, reach out to the email box. We're certainly here to answer questions. There's going to be lots of other webinars coming up. As Allison or Emmett had said earlier, this is a lot of funding. We're still trying to figure out the whole process and definitely review the program guide, because that contains a lot of information on there, along with the website as well. I don't know if Emmett or Allison has any parting words.
No, I appreciate you setting this up, Michelle. And well, I guess I'll just emphasize what headquarters has been trying to say, and we appreciate everyone from the local utilities being out there to reach out to them as soon as possible, because they're obviously an integral part. We're just kind of giving that money for the bus and the the electric pedestal, but you probably want to start the process early with the utility side to kind of understand your needs and how they can help you and figure out what may or may not make sense.
And I would just say, read the program guide thoroughly, just to make sure you're comfortable and that, you know, this is workable for you.
Great. So we are going to end our part of the presentation, but we will leave the meeting open. So please take a look at that question from EPA in the chat, and your responses certainly help everyone with the program. So we will leave that open, and we're going to stop our broadcast. Again, thank you everyone for your time this morning.
Thanks, Sean, for setting this up. You did a great job, and everybody else on the panel, really great job. It was excellent.
Thanks,
So thank
everyone.
you, EPA and everybody else. Yes, thank you.
Have a good day. We can
Thank you all.
All right, assuming nobody else has anything to write into the chat, we're going to end this meeting.
Can I just add one thing? Someone asked a question about a new bus, and then maybe you can cut out if you don't mind. I'm just writing it now.
Okay,
Sorry about that. Thank you.
no worries.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for everything.
No worries. Thank you.